Welcome to Too Many Games, where the more you play, the more you win. I'm Chuck. This is Travis.
Hello, this is Travis.
I am battling a cold today, so forgive me if I don't sound like I have enough energy.
Not me, I just cough a lot.
For different reasons. Don't you look into my coughing. Coughing is my own problems.
Right? Mine are from choices. Yours is an accident. Oops.
Let's jump into it. This week, there was the Sony State of Play event that went off. Did you catch any of this?
I watched some of them. I didn't watch any of it as it actually released, but
right.
Like Street Fighter looks amazing. The skate game. There's some crazy VR shit. I mean, I'm really excited to hear what you have to say about it because obviously you definitely know what you're talking about as far as games go. But they're, even though I'm not a big into Sony or PlayStation or anything. Looks like a bunch of really cool shit.
Well, I mean, for one, the State of Play ended up being a big disappointment for me in the sense that is being advertised as we're going to show off all the new the PSVR 2 stuff. It's like score, so we're actually going to see what the unit looks like and stuff. And it's like, no, we're going to show you 4 games.
Oof.
And that's it. And only one game is brand new. So it's like, come on. You guys have been hyping up this VR set for a while now.
Cool games though.
Yeah, I mean, the games themselves look cool. I mean, they're coming out with a Resident Evil 8 VR, which the Resident Evil 7 on VR was fucking awesome.
I did see a lot of cool stuff about that. That was pretty cool.
Then you have Chapter 2 of the Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, which I mean, I don't remember much about it, but I do remember it was a buggy mess. Chapter 1 was a buggy mess. So maybe they've fixed it.
Hooray, or it's just going to be more crap piled on.
We have No Man's Sky VR, which I have to say, if you're going to send me on a VR system, I would love to play No Man's Sky for hours on end.
That's your VR pick.
Here's something new. I played a little bit of Star Citizen recently.
Really?
And it's 2 weeks ago-ish. Huh. I bought in at the $60 price. So it's just normal game price. But there's some insane details in that game and shit. And it's I would love to play this on VR. So No Man's Sky has always been the kind of indie version of that. And yeah, if that's on VR, I'd play the shit out of that. And then their Horizon games, they're coming out with Call of the Mountain VR, which is going to be a full-length Horizon adventure game.
Oh, right. I do remember seeing part of that.
It actually looks really dope. It starts out looking like it might be just kind of an on-rail shooter, but then it starts going in where you can actually move the leaves with your hand, and you actually have to climb up the mountainside or ladders and shit using your hands.
Wow.
So it's definitely going to be one of those that nobody could play for more than an hour because their arms will get tired, but still.
Yeah, because you're literally doing these things. It does sound awesome though.
I mean, I think I'm pretty sure they're not going to do the whole sliding and backflipping and stuff.
Action rolls. No, if you do a flip
does. So it's just going to be strictly shoot an explosive arrow at the robot dinosaur and they die,
Yes, I'm sure a lot of it will be aiming for the weak points and stuff, like in the other Horizon games you were talking,
Yeah.
But now you're doing it in VR, so you have actually like have to aim. That's wild.
I mean, it looks cool. It looks like kind of like uh part of the engine of like Half-Life Alyx. Do you remember what that looks like?
Yeah, actually. Well, I remember Donkey's video on it,
All right.
but still, it counts.
Except this, I mean, we haven't seen the unit or the price point yet, so I hope it's not like $1,000.
Oh Jesus.
But that's what the Valve system is. It's like $1,000.
Yeah, there's no way. There's like no way.
It's like Half-Life Alyx is definitely the next level of VR, but I'm not spending $1,000 to play it.
Fuck no.
I could buy a whole new computer that could do 100 games.
Yeah, right. Like I'm barely spending $60 on a fucking computer.
So
I mean, on a game. On a game.
I do like that each of the games that they've showed off in this VR style, we're no longer at that period of the VR game where in order to move around, you kind of have like the little teleport circle to teleport around.
Oh,
you can actually freely move and look around and shit.
Right, with like a joystick or something?
Yeah. If it works like the Oculus Quest 2, then it's like the left joystick is for movement. And the right joystick is to help you turn left or right.
I mean, that makes sense.
I'll get into more of that during my game because I played Resident Evil 4 on the Oculus Quest and that was awesome. So, speaking of Resident Evil 4, we finally got scenes of a remake.
Go on.
Oh my god. I'm so tired of all these remakes. I'm done with it. You know? Hundreds of thousands of games out there and they keep remaking the same ones.
Right. And then I feel like they're missing some really good opportunities. Like there's really, really good IP that, don't get me wrong, Resident Evil is amazing. There's nothing wrong with Resident Evil, but it's like, how do you rehash that game? I almost feel like this is a point where Metal Gear Solid can, even though that fucking shitty zombie game was terrible as fuck, whatever it was called.
Fuck, what was that one called?
Shithole Snake Eater.
Yeah, I mean the one that they used the Metal Gear engine without Kojima.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, props on them for trying something. It's like they just didn't remake another Metal Gear game and develop more into their plot of crazy bullshit. And they're not like remaking, Metal Gear Solid, Snake Eater, or Sons of Anarchy or Sons of Liberty or whatever. But yeah, that's not remaking a game again and again. Seems like a risky play unless you're like Call of Duty and people aren't playing it for like the plot, they're playing it for the interaction with other people.
Like the Resident Evil 4 remake, it looks good. Like they've added so much stuff to the environment and stuff to give it more of a spooky atmosphere. Except for Leon's coat. It looks poofy and goofy as shit, and I hate it. I hate the whole fucking thing. So, but at the same time, it's like, the controls for Resident Evil 4 aren't even that outdated yet. And you're coming out with this remake. Like, you think of like the Resident Evil 2 and 3 remake, they used the control scheme from the original Resident Evil 4.
Oh,
so if you're remaking Resident Evil 4, what the hell kind of control scheme are you going to throw in there?
Right. Where do you
you're not going to
there?
You're not going to do 7 and 8 because you're not doing it in first person. So
so what besides that, what other is there anything about Resident Evil you liked that you saw?
Like the Resident Evil 4?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, the graphics look good and Like it looks like they upped the spooky atmosphere of the village and stuff, but we don't really get to see much more than that. It's like a bunch of quick clips of Leon going through the village, and um, it looks like it's going to be a lot darker and stuff,
Right.
which is fine. But I don't know. It's like Resident Evil 2 remake. That was one of those long-awaited remakes. Resident Evil 3 remake was a cash grab, and they failed miserably on remaking that. And I know this isn't Capcom, but you have Final Fantasy 7 remake, and they're divvying that up into several parts. And um, I'm just tired of remakes, man. Like we did an episode on what games we'd like to see remade, and I don't know. I kind of, after seeing this Sony State of Play, I think I just kind of feel it in my bones of I actually don't want to see remakes anymore. Sequels, sure. Come out with Legend of Dragoon 2 and put that on like new engine or something, but don't remake number 1. Leave number 1 as is.
That's what I was talking about in the Damon episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah. I would love to see some fucking Legend of the Dragoon 2. That'd be a tight fucking sequel. Although honestly, I wouldn't even complain if they just remade it. I could replay that game again right now. Fuck it, I gotta replay that game. If only it wasn't only like hundreds of hours and 4 discs long, in the PlayStation day.
Right.
Because I could review it and I want to. I just know that I'd have to get a refresher, and damn, that game will suck you in.
See, the other like new game that they showcased in this state of play is it's called Callisto Protocol, and it's basically the game that the Dead Space devs have been working on.
Oh,
so it like looks like you're on like a prison colony or something, and you're a prisoner workforce, and then like aliens start showing up and the local robots go crazy and shit. It looks crazy, but there's some aspects of it that are very Dead Space like he has this like little yellow bar behind his neck to kind of signify his health and stuff. Kind of looks like he'll go into the dismemberment thing again.
Mm-hmm.
Which is good. Instead of I mean, yes, they are remaking Dead Space 1, but that's the studio that owns the property. The actual Dead Space devs are like, now we're doing something new, and for that, I like them.
Well, yeah, no, that's going back to that same thing you're talking about. It's like I'd much rather see a really good company, unless they still have a story to tell, unless the story is not done, or they have more innovation to do, because how do you make a game that's really amazing and fits all the criteria you want and you're happy with it, and then you turn around and make a second one? Like the story is completely wrapped up. It was a good ending. Do you just fuck around and find that new? Like I'm racking my brain to find a good example of the second game that did really well with a new mechanic or something, and it just wasn't a continuation.
That wasn't a continuation.
That wasn't just a continuation. Sorry, it is a continuation. Like it's the second in the series or whatever, but there's something that makes it appealing, like BioShock. If the second one,
well, the second one of BioShock did add new stuff because like you actually took the role of Big Daddy instead of a normal guy, so you got to run around with like the drill arm and shit.
Okay, so there's a pretty good example, like BioShock, where the first game you see Big Daddies and you encounter them and they're terrifying. They're one of your main antagonists. And then it turns around in the second game, you're a big fucking daddy.
And then the third one was like instead of being in the ocean, you're up in the sky. And then it kind of like instituted that like the BioShock is like multiple dimensions and shit. So,
I never played. I mean, I didn't play that one.
you didn't play Infinite?
No.
Oh, that was a good one. Like, if you like the first BioShock Infinite was definitely a good follow up to it. Also, they're the only game that did like a good escort mission, because like Elizabeth, she'll open portals and like throw you ammo and shit, and she properly like runs and hides from enemies, and like she's not tedious to be around. Um so
No,
we also got to see Street Fighter 6.
Oh my god, that one blew me the fuck away. The graphics on that new Street Fighter are so good and crisp. It's like impossibly good. Just magnificent how it is practically realistic, or not so even realistic, just so smooth, buttery smooth and good looking. Like a version of what people should look like if they were painted in the most like beautiful fashion. Like Jesus Christ, that's a fantastic looking game.
um yeah, I really shouldn't buy fighting games anymore. I am just terrible at them. But this looks like there's going to be like an open world to run around in and do like regular fights and
Kind of expanding,
optional content. Yeah.
right? Like expanding on the Street Fighter universe, which hasn't really been done besides what, some movies. And I'm not even
Right.
talking about that live action stinker with fucking Jean-Claude Van Damme, which
Are you talking about the greatest Raul Julia ever made?
no, oh my god. Hey, do you remember the animated ones?
Oh yeah. Oh,
Oh
they
yeah.
were amazing. Like for the time, I think those were the highest rated anime to be pushed stateside.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. If nothing else, because I mean, it was Street Fighter, it had a lot of exposure to begin with, and it was really well done. Like,
Yeah.
it's beautifully animated, and then it told a really good story. I really liked it. But beyond that, and that the live action movie, that one, I can't think of very much that like let you explore the Street Fighter universe outside of the games.
Um, so to wrap up the state of play event, they showed off gameplay footage of Final Fantasy 16, which I mean, obviously it looks amazing. This is a single player game from the director of the MMO Final Fantasy 14 online.
Right.
So it's got a lot of that style in it, which is good because a lot of the art direction on some of the previous Final Fantasies have kind of like gone way overboard with some of their looks and armor and shit. So this is kind of going back to that medieval fantasy style, which is really great.
Which I'm sure a lot of people appreciate. That was
right. I just, one thing is the ground combat. They show quick glimpses of it. I don't know if I like it.
really.
I mean, for one, like the scenes they're showing off is like one person. So you might not even have a party. It might just be the one guy. On the left, you get your cursor buttons activate potions, like potion, high potion, strength. And then if you hold down R2, you could like cast fireball or jump, stuff like that.
Oh wow.
It's like weird. The button layout is just so fucking weird for it. And I don't know, it kind of reminds me of the button layouts for the recent what was it? The Final Fantasy Origins? It's
I haven't
that
been following.
the Dark Souls-esque Final Fantasy game.
Right.
Strangers in Paradise.
What a ridiculous name.
It's basically the first Final Fantasy, but in a Dark Souls style. And it was like really grindy and like lackluster. And the main character said chaos like 287 times throughout the whole game.
Oh, that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw the Duncan review on that.
Yeah. But
it's like a theme with me.
So I mean, I just feel like they're trying to do this thing where even if you're doing basic attacks and stuff, it's like, how extravagant can we do this basic attack to have the most effects and stuff? And it's like, basic attack could just be a basic attack. It doesn't need to have all this spell effect going off. Like, calm down. But I mean, if you're watching this video, it's like he's teleporting all over the place and stuff, and it's like all he's doing is hitting square. I really hate that. Like, there's a median level of button input plus button input leading to cool effect on screen,
Right.
And if the cool effect on screen does not relate to what your button input is, it just kind of really turns me off,
Right.
That said, it looks like the normal summons that are going to be in the game are going to be like these giant kaiju battles, and that looks really cool.
That does sound fucking amazing. That I'm down as fuck for. Like, sign my ass up.
I hope that's not like, this only happens like 3 or 4 times in the entire like 30 plus hour game. I hope it's kind of a big feature.
Right. Instead of just like one thing at the very end of the game.
Yeah. Because like Final Fantasy 15 was all about how all these summons were like giant Godzilla size monsters, and you had to fight them, and there were like these big multi-stage battles and stuff, but like there's only like 3 of them, and that game lasted almost 100 hours. It was like, yeah, each fight was epic in the sense that there was mostly nothing going on for most of that game. But it's like, this is a really cool feature. Please do more of this.
Right. I don't know how people like don't realize. Maybe it was really hard to do or something, or I don't know. I am a big fan of like the mobile suit type of games, the kaiju battles, that type of shit.
Right. So, anything you're super excited about from this?
That's a really tough one, but the Street Fighter game, honestly, that might fucking get me.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I would go with the Horizon Call of the Mountain VR, simply because I want to see how far they have taken the VR setup,
Right.
So I love advancements in technology more than the next game. Don't get me wrong, I'm going to play the shit out of Final Fantasy 16, Eternites, Callisto Protocol, all of those games, but the most excited I am is to see what comes of the Horizon Call of the Mountain. So
that is pretty cool, actually. I'm kind of curious too to see it, like you said, how far they can push that shit, like you said.
What's your game this week, Travis?
My game this week is Vermintide 2, which is I was trying to think of I was trying to find the best way to describe how would you describe the game, right? And it's like Chivalry meets Left 4 Dead.
Yes, that sounds right.
Right? Doesn't that make sense? First off, phenomenal fucking game. It's a multiplayer like horde style survival game. survival game, action game, whatever, where you so it's set in the Warhammer universe. And to get started with the Warhammer universe, there's an insane amount of bunch of fucking bullshit that goes with it, where there's early game, late game, like the early, I say early game, there's Warhammer 40K, there's Warhammer like original or whatever you want to call it, where
Well,
it's
I'll pop in here just a second to be like, all of this started as like the tabletop figures,
right.
and then they came out with 40K, which was set in the far future, and then Blizzard stole the ideas for Warcraft and StarCraft from Warhammer. And they created their video games, and then the Warhammer team is like, oh, these could be video games, and so they've been pumping out video games these last 10 years.
Okay, so you did a great, that was pretty good. That's pretty good. You're totally right. It started off as like a tabletop game. It continues to be a tabletop game. It's huge. In fact, I really want to get into it, but it's so fucking difficult because you have to spend so much money.
Oh yeah.
Like building an army, and then that's just one army. Some people have huge armies, some people have multiple. I mean, it's crazy what people do with this thing. But anyways,
I mean, even if you have the money to like invest into it, you need to have the space to hold all of those figures.
Oh my God. Yeah. No, there's just so much to it. It's ridiculously difficult. I don't even know how to play the game. And I love tabletop games. I love strategies. I love rules. I love all that stuff. Anyways, so it's a really popular franchise, incredibly popular, been around for a really long time. They've made a bunch of games. This one in particular is the second, because it's called Vermintide. It's Vermintide 2, which is, the second in the series, but it is like a horde style game where you pick a hero or a champion. And now like the backstory in Warhammer, you've got humans and elves, and it's super high fantasy, right? Magic, evil goblins and gremlins and stuff. If anyone actually knows Warhammer lore, I'm butchering this for you. I'm sorry. I know. I'm not trying
There's
to
going to
say
be a test on this later.
I know, right? I'll quiz everyone on fucking Warhammer lore. I've actually tried to get into it. It is so hard. There's so much to it.
Oh yeah. And then like there's so many fan editions.
Oh my God, the stuff people, yeah. No. People really do fall in love with this stuff. Anyways, to get into the actual game part of it, right? This is a high fantasy game. You pick your character, you've got unlockable stats, you can customize them, you can pick your weapon. Each class or character has different weapons. Some of them share some of the same attributes, like mechanics wise, breaking, guard, there's mechanics like blocking, stuff like that. Me personally, whenever I was playing this game, it was with Chuck and Dustin and a couple other friends, and we'd all kind of pick one of the classes to play through and level that one up and get gear for that one. So I remember like maxing out and getting to level 30 and getting my first what were they, orange legendary items.
Yeah. So I think they call them like exotic or something.
Yeah, whatever it was, definitely put a lot of time into this game. I used to just play it like on my own as well all the time without everyone, just because I love the game that much. But I eventually got to the point where I was just playing whatever, just because there were so many options as far as like classes go and champions or whatever. To get into more of it, actually, it's kind of seems silly. Of course I can get into more of it. What was her name? Carillion, something like that. She was an elf. And man, that was such a fun character with the like big two-handed glaive, so you could just mush all the. So your main enemy, or I say main enemy, there are these like rat creatures called Skaven, and they really do fit that like quantity over quality type of mentality where you can just just crush a whole wave of them in one swipe of whatever weapon. And it's a really empowering game because of that. Then you have like special abilities and a ranged weapon and, you know, different options and different varieties about going through. And most of the missions involve something to do with the lore, like opening up a portal or closing one or whatever it is like the high fantasy concept. But because most of the enemies you're fighting are really like weak horde like enemies, it's really fun to just crush stuff or have this, you know, character just blowing people away with a bow or a gun, or even the fire mage lady. That was always a fun one. I think that's what Dustin played.
Yeah.
I think you played
The knight.
Marcus the Knight. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, basically there's some types of enemies that are armored or have shields, and normal weaponry just kind of like bounces right off of them. But with this particular character, you can unlock the weapon, the halberd, and it's basically you're just stabbing in front of you the entire time, but it's armor piercing. So it's like the best way to just kill everything that's coming at you without worry.
Just a wall of death, of
Yep.
stabbing.
It was the greatest.
No, super fucking fun game. They also released a ton of content for it and have been releasing more content. So we all stopped playing after a while, and I've kind of played a game here or there every once in a while, but I haven't really gotten back into it. And they've released extra classes, extra weapons, more content. I thought they were. So you remember Left 4 Dead whenever they made like the versus mode?
Yeah.
I thought that's what they were doing, and maybe they maybe they still are, or maybe they did and I just missed it because, like I said, I don't really play regularly. But they were going to do one of those versus modes for Vermintide, and I thought that would be really cool.
They just announced a new expansion for it recently called like Bay Locktor, some shit.
Right.
So I don't know, I might try downloading it again.
Check it out a
Looks
little
cool.
bit. Yeah, I would actually love that if you're down. I think we should give it a little look see. Maybe we do a little mini episode.
Yeah. So main plot.
The plot itself is really, I mean, from like the general point of view, the whole Warhammer thing is good versus evil, right? But in the Warhammer sense, good is really not good. You know, there's not really any real good. The good people are just not actively saying, I want to kill people. They're just killing people. You know, they're corrupt, they're evil. I say evil. They do evil things, but they're the less disastrous option. But it's not like anyone chooses. You're just on one side or the other. So even if you were inherently good, you know, like even people that are on the chaos side that are like, oh, I don't want to hurt anyone. Well, that's the issue, is none of them think that. Every single one of them thinks, oh, I want to kill somebody. Whereas on the good side or the order side or whatever, even though some people are terrible assholes, some of the other people are like, you know, I would go out of my way to help someone. But main plot, bad guys are coming in to kill the good guys. Good guys got to stop the bad guys. It's super complicated, I know. There is so much more to the actual plot if you want to really get into all the politics. And like one really interesting thing about Warhammer is there's chaos, or like these mutant things that are evil, and then you've got Skaven, which are like humanoid rat creatures that for some reason have access to like, or have developed really advanced technology, like Gatling guns and explosives and all sorts of crazy shit. Whereas the chaos are just like horrific abominations and mutants and monsters and shit. So you've got two different bad guys. And then on, you know, the light side or the good side or whatever you want to call the other faction, you've got, humans and elves and dwarfs and engineering and magic and a bunch of other shit. Really super interesting if you wanted to find like a fandom to really get lost in. Warhammer's a great one. You would get fucking absorbed. Although I don't think there's any like animated cartoons or anything, or I mean animated movies, or I know there's no live action movies.
I mean, fan stuff, but nothing official.
Right. It's just crazy in the sense that, I mean, it is like a huge
Yeah, I mean, they
deal.
could fucking do a Marvel style universe with some of this shit.
Oh yeah, that would be bad as fuck, and it would be so much. So, a lot of ways that people explain or talk about Dune as being like Star Wars for adults, right?
Yeah.
This is like XXX triple X Star Wars for adults in the concept where you go. But so that's the flip side to the coin, is there's Warhammer, which is just called Warhammer, which is set, in like a high fantasy medieval time setting. And then there's Warhammer 40K. And that's 40,000 years in the future from then, whenever there's like rampant fucking chaos. That's whenever the shit really gets crazy, because now you've got hordes and hordes of different subsects. And now that we're talking about a whole other type of game, and there actually are a couple really cool like Space Marine Warhammer 40K games, but that's not what we're talking about. We're vaguely talking about Vermintide 2 in a horrific ramble. But the game itself is super fun. I've always had like a blast playing team-oriented games, helping people, working together, even whenever it's just like with a random person. It's always been fun. There's really no like into the game. It's very open-ended. I mean, you could also play through the whole game just using bots. You can also play in different difficulty settings. So obviously like some of the harder settings with bots is near impossible, just because they don't, like, the level of the bots isn't as high as the level of the AI. So it's not like expert team AI fighting expert enemy AI. It's like dumbass team AI fighting expert enemy AI, and you're there for the ride.
Right.
So if you want to bring some friends, you could definitely like cap out the game, play on all the hardest modes. There's a lot of really cool interactions with like challenges in the game. Like a lot of people say, oh, beat level 12 without using any health packs or special abilities or whatever. Well, in the game, there's contracts now that you can add to a mission that says there are no health pickups in this one. There are no like or enemies do double damage or have double health, or another mechanic in the game like unstaggerable or something like that. So all in all, super fun game. Put a lot of time into it, a whole lot of time. Was even obsessed there for a while.
I mean, I brought it up a little, but it's like it's really cool that not only are there different characters that play completely differently, but each of them, you can change their main weapon, which completely changes their utility.
Right.
So it's like I said I like swapped to the pole arm for armor piercing, but that guy he has like a sword and shield to be more tanky. He has a two-handed sword. He could do like two-handed mace for more stagger. Like,
no, actually, you're totally right. Not only does everyone have a primary weapon, like a melee weapon, a sword, a pike, an axe. The dwarf is a little berserker guy, so I believe he has two axes.
Yeah.
And no ranged weapon, but then almost everyone has a ranged option. And then you can also cycle through those, right? So like Chuck's Knight character could take like a shotgun type scatter gun weapon, or like a long rifle that is like a musket. And so you get all these different choices to really define exactly how you want your character to play out. And then outside of the weapon choices, the primary and the secondary weapon, you also get a class within the character. And so, the knight can change from being like a super hardcore tanky knight to being like a huntsman ranger type that specializes in his ranged weapon. So the game itself had a lot of really cool shit like that. That's what I I really enjoyed like finding one class in every single one of them that was really fun, except for the Slayer, the little barbarian dwarf guy. I fucking hate dwarfs.
What was fun about the fire mage was that being like the only mage class at the time, I don't know what they've added since we originally played, but you actually had a like fire meter where if you cast too many big spells, your character would just blow up.
Yep.
So it's like you did the most damage, but you also had to watch your meter or else you kill yourself.
Yeah, a whole glass cannon concept. In fact, in the Warhammer Online game, that was another big part. The evil part of the fire mage was the sorcerer, and they had a power up bar like that where the higher it went, the more damage you did, but if it capped out, you started doing damage to yourself, which is a really fucking fun mechanic. I like that a lot. Like weighing risk versus reward.
God, I wish they put that in World of Warcraft. Fuck those fire mages. I'd love to see them just start popping off in the middle of PvP, killing themselves. Anyway, I'm kidding. I don't play PvP.
No, you really don't. I remember some, and I mean, if we start talking about WoW, that's the end of the discussion about the game. Yeah. No, though, to kind of wrap it all up, Vermintide 2, I really feel silly like I should play the first one, but knowing what I know and looking it up, it's kind of like the second one is the first game, but better, and like adding in the stuff that the first one missed. So I'll definitely say play the second one. They're still planning on updating it up to like 2023. So there's still more content coming. I have recently reinstalled the game, and I know I'm going to convince Chuck to play it again with me soon, but we also have to make sure that we're playing games that we can review as well. So I'll give it 6 Space Marines out of 9. That's definitely.
But this is medieval times.
6 Space Marines out of 9. I'll give it Blood for the Blood God. Skulls for the Skulls for the Skull Throne. Play Warhammer. I do highly suggest that. I think it's worth buying it even right now. If you enjoy Left 4 Dead, or you like multiplayer games, or you like high fantasy, or you just want to try out a new game, give it a shot.
My game this week is Resident Evil 4 VR.
And they gave us a spoiler early.
Yeah. So my brother-in-law's brother, does that make him still my brother-in-law, or is it like only the closer people are in-laws?
No,
I'm not married to the guy. So my sister's husband's brother, he bought into the Oculus Quest 2. I've personally not wanted to do the Oculus Quest 2 just because of the whole Facebook login thing. Like, it's a fantastic VR system, but like having my Facebook account attached to it and subject to whatever censorship that they want to do, not really my cup of tea. However, I might change my tune on that. Or maybe we'll set up like the business Facebook into the Oculus Quest 2. Anyway, so everyone should be familiar with Resident Evil 4 as the first one that not only took Resident Evil to like third person, but let you free aim. So instead of like just shooting at the zombie's chest and kind of having a 3-point aiming system where you either point straight on, straight up, or straight down, you actually get like a laser pointer, so you can aim towards the enemy's heads and weak spots and stuff. So it's like this big revolutionary kind of game. Came out in 2005. It was originally a GameCube exclusive, then got ported over to the PlayStation 2 and stuff. What's actually interesting is that it was originally being developed for the PlayStation 2 starting in 1999. Jesus. And then due to lack of funding, they picked up extra funding from Nintendo to make it a GameCube exclusive. And it was only going to be like exclusive for a couple years. So it was like it launched as a GameCube exclusive, and then like a year or two out, they ported it to the PlayStation 2, and from there, every other system as remasters.
Well, right. It's Resident Evil now. It's a whole thing.
Yeah. So,
I mean, so, well, maybe it's a bit of a loaded one because your parents are particular, but like, I mean, people's parents know what Resident Evil is. It's like a household name.
yeah. I mean, I feel like everyone would know Resident Evil now. Like, if you haven't played any of the current games, there's like an entire like 8 movies.
Right. Well, that's what
to
I mean.
watch. There's an upcoming Netflix series. Like, there's an entire
series.
like book series with them. There's comic books. Like, Resident Evil has become pop culture in the same sense like Night of the Living Dead has, in a sense.
Oh, Mario. Obviously, it's not
Mario.
As big. Mario.
Mario.
Hey, that's a damn good Mario.
I can only do it while sick. So,
hey kid, it's me, Mario.
I mean, I guess a quick rundown would be, Resident Evil is a zombie game where a certain special police task force gets into a mansion that is filled with zombies. And as they're clearing out the mansion, it turns out it was all a conspiracy by a pharmaceutical company called Umbrella. And Umbrella has been doing a bunch
parking.
of to sell more parking. Like, we gotta, if people are afraid to go to the park, then we could clear that out and make it parking. And so all of these characters kind of get wrapped up in the conspiracy because it is a multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical company. So they got people in all aspects of the government. So instead of being the saviors of the world for stopping a zombie outbreak, they end up being touted as rogue cops and kind of start their own underground police force kind of thing to stop Umbrella.
Called Underground Police Force.
The only one who kind of gets a normal government job is Leon Kennedy, who was first shown in Resident Evil 2. And in that, he fought zombies and stuff, found out about the Umbrella conspiracy, and then Umbrella blew up the entire town. He survives, continues.
What would you have done if you were Umbrella in that situation? Not blown up the town?
Look, blowing up the town is best case scenario. Imploding the town is fucking stupid. And that was the Welcome to Raccoon City movie. Fucking stupid. It's like, you didn't do any. There's still blowing up the town. You're basically creating a fireball, incinerating all aspects of the virus. Imploding the town, you're just sinking the town into a sinkhole. The zombies are still there. The virus is still there. Like, what?
Oh, it's just there for safekeeping,
right?
For later. Saving it.
That's a conversation for another thing. Anyway,
plot holes in Resident Evil. Oh yeah.
Right. So Resident Evil 4 is Leon has basically becomes Secret Service to the president, and the president's daughter gets kidnapped and taken to this small countryside in Spain. So
that sounds ridiculous. First off,
well, okay. The other aspect of Resident Evil is the storylines are very camp. It is campy as shit. Like Night of the Living Dead was kind of like primo zombie horror. What about Return of the Living Dead? Well, that's campy zombies. So this kind of follows Return of the Living Dead more. It's got a bunch of camp in it. Um, so President's daughter gets kidnapped. Leon is tasked with finding her. And when he goes to this village, he finds a bunch of these cultists that have her. And so he has to fight through. And it's like you're fighting off the villagers, you're fighting off monsters. Um,
It's a tight
this
fucking game. I played a lot of this iteration of Resident Evil.
Yeah. So this is the first game where it's like they stepped away from the zombie aspect and went into like more of if you're a fan of like HP Lovecraft, that kind of possession style cultist. Oh, yeah. So it's like really interesting. And because they added in the free aiming system, it's no longer about like you can't just shoot a zombie in the head and that's the end of it. No, these cultists, if you shoot them in the head, at a certain point in the game, their head will split open and a giant tentacle with a blade on it will shoot out and start like whipping at you. It's pretty crazy.
It's awesome.
And so yeah, you go through it. It takes an insane turn where it's like you have to go through a whole castle with, was he like the governor of the land? His name is Salazar. He's like this little midget that looks like he's undead, but he's not.
Terrifying though, truly terrifying.
And he owns this castle, and so you're going through it. You're doing this whole castle scenario, fighting off his monsters and stuff. And then after that, you go to like it's like this mining town in the desert, and within that mining town is a bunch of like high-tech machinery and laboratories and shit, because that's where they found the original parasite that is infesting all these people, and that's where they were experimenting on it and shit.
Game was.
And so it all turns out to be like this cult wanted to put the parasite inside of Leon and the president's daughter so that they could go back to the mainland and like spread the parasite to everybody, kind of thing. And so you have to find a way to kill off the parasite within your body while also killing off all of these leaders and shit.
Turns out the whole time Leon was drugged, he was murdering right? Political figures.
So you can't eat that many green herbs without feeling some kind of effect.
Exactly. A lot of red, a lot of green herbs. You mix them up, start killing folk.
So that's the basic story. What is really cool about this is it's the VR system. So I mean, you obviously get the whole thing of you can now properly aim the gun like you would. Shotguns require 2 hands, sniper rifles, you actually have to like peek down the scope in order for it to scope in. You actually have to pull out a clip for reloading. You pull out a clip from your belt to put in. You could actually dual wield. You could have your knife in your left hand and your gun in your right hand. It's pretty cool.
How does the knife physics work? Like, do you have to exert so much force to do damage with the knife, or it just makes contact? Because if it just
makes contact. Yeah,
so you can just like hold it in front of you with your left little weak arm. I mean, my left arm is also weak. I'm not saying you're like a weak arm.
But I mean, there's also like a bunch of these weird like gun physics and stuff. Like you could literally be tossing the gun up in the air and just kind of like flipping it and catching it again.
Right.
You could flip the knife around, so you could like literally juggle the knife and the gun while you're killing these villagers. It's actually a lot of fun. All of your grenades are actually on the chest of Leon. So if you look down, you can see the grenades on your chest, and you pull off the grenade to throw it.
That is very cool.
There's, of course, like switches and stuff. You actually have to like reach out and pull them, stuff like that. This is the first VR game that I played that was like, you don't do the teleport movement. You don't get like a little box on the ground, then move forward and shoot whatever's there kind of thing. This is free movement. This is on the left controller, you can move like forward and back or straight left to right. And then on the right controller, you can turn left or right. And the screen on your head is for you to like look around and shit.
Right. I mean, how do you like those controls versus other controls?
I mean, as far as VR controls, I like it a lot better because it gets me into the game. It's not taking that extra step of, oh, well, if your character's walking, you have to be walking too, kind of thing. It's like, no, it's a nice. I mean, I almost want to say like it's a near perfect midway of VR controls with regular controls, you know?
Right. That makes sense. So, a marriage of the Twix.
The big thing that I had, and it might be a settings thing, I don't know, but so you can move forward, back, straight, left, or right, and it's all fluid and stuff, and you can turn your head and stuff while you're doing it. That's all fine. But whenever you turn your body left or right with the right stick, it kind of do this weird like blinking thing.
Ooh.
And I feel like it was like maybe there was like a motion sickness mode that I didn't know was triggered or something.
The make you sick mode.
I mean, I have like gameplay loaded up and it's not doing it for this guy, but it could also be like because he's recording it, so maybe the recording doesn't do it, but the headset still does it, you know?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. It was annoying to me, but I can understand why it was done that way to eliminate motion sickness.
It's funny, it like worked backwards.
I mean, my brother-in-law and my niece, they played the hell out of the Oculus Quest, but every game they played, they were playing. My brother-in-law played this like, what was it? It's like swords and magic, swords and sorcery, something like that, where you basically you play as a knight with a sword and a shield. You have to run around, you slash at monsters and stuff, but it kind of like the movement was like I was explaining before, where it's like you move by a box and then you slash at whatever's there. So you just kind of have to point the camera towards the next enemy and then you say press forward and it'll teleport you closer to them.
Right. So that makes moving away from things really easy too, because you can just teleport away, right?
Yeah. As long as nothing's in front of you, you can keep moving forward.
Right.
But both him and my niece were like, we can't play it for more than an hour without getting sick and stuff. And I'd like boot up Resident Evil 4 and I was playing that for like 3 hours.
You're like, hold my beer, watch this.
Right? It's like, y'all are a bunch of amateurs.
What is this, amateur?
So, I never got a chance to fully play like Resident Evil 7 on the PSVR. I got to play like maybe an hour of it, and
where were you playing it?
Almost as fluid. You remember my job back in Oklahoma was setting up home theater systems?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we had a client that wanted us to set up the PSVR for him. Like, not just set it up, but he had a theater room, and so we were wiring a bunch of USB 3.0 extensions so that the VR wires could go into the wall behind the couch instead of being draped across the floor. So they go into the wall and then up and over to where the PlayStation is. And in order to test the connectivity, I got to sit down and play a bunch of Resident Evil 7 VR. I had to test it for an hour so that I could tell that the connection would stay for a long time. I mean,
exactly. No, you were just being very thorough, is all. That's one of your faults. You're just too thorough most of the time. Help yourself. I know.
So I mean, it operated almost as smoothly. The control scheme is a little bit different than the Oculus Quest, but for what it is, I would say that this game alone is worth investing into an Oculus Quest. Honestly, like this was so much fun to play. Like, not especially in the sense that it's like I've played Resident Evil 4 to death, so I already know the game. So I already know it's a good game, you know. So it's like, well, what is that like with VR settings? And it turned out to be amazing.
No, I think that's really cool that they managed to like capture that because VR is like so fickle,
Yeah,
like so easy to do poorly. I remember like the difference between a good game and a bad game. I haven't played a lot of VR games, but the ones that I have played, it's just the actual like gameplay mechanics of it, like duck, dodge, dip.
yeah.
So once that gets better, invariably the games are going to get better.
I'd say as little gaming that we've seen hit VR, they're still making proper advancements to gameplay, which I love. Then that's kind of why I'm excited for the PSVR 2, is to see what more can come out.
No, I personally, I could not be happier that VR is working out the way that it is. And it's actually like it's not like, so I remember the Virtual Boy. Did you ever get your hands
Yeah.
on a Virtual Boy back in the day?
I never got my hands on it, but I know all about it.
Right. You're familiar with the whole fucking concept.
Like, I remember the Angry Video Game Nerd episode on it.
Oh my God. I remember playing like
Talk
a
about
Wario
nostalgia.
game. It's terrible. It was a terrible fucking device. I'm so glad that VR has continued to move forward from that point.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And even from like the earlier concepts of just like being a on-rail shooter, or you can almost say like VR really didn't take that step forward if the Wii didn't happen, because the Wii brought in those accurate motion controls,
True.
and with that they kind of advanced the VR system by attaching the motion controls into that.
No, you're very right. That's a good point.
I just remembered one moment of gameplay that was really funny. So within the game itself, obviously there's cutscenes. Well, how the VR does it is kind of like it puts you in this black room and brings up kind of like a projection screen to show you the cinema. So you can still like play with the stuff on your body, but it won't have any effect. Like you can't like waste your ammo in there or anything, but you can like mess around with stuff as the movie plays out. So I got into the habit of learning how to juggle my grenades. So I was like, I was sitting there like juggling grenades, juggling my knives, stuff like that. And then the cinema ended and I had the grenade still in my hand. And I threw it up in the air. It landed at my feet and just blew me up.
Oh no, it automatically pulls.
Yeah. Because it just like loaded me back into the main world, and I still had the grenade in my hand, and whenever you throw the grenade it automatically triggers.
Oh no.
It was
See,
fun.
that's where we need more realistic physics mechanics. You have to actually pull the pin, damn it.
Well, there is the aspect of pulling the pin, like it's in the game where you pull the pin to start the grenade if you want to cook the grenade. But if you throw the grenade, it'll automatically trigger anyway.
I see. That's really cool then. You get the choice.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that's where we want realism in our video games. If the grenade lands at my feet, I want Leon to not have any legs, just like start calling out for Forrest Gump to come save him. Come on, Forrest. I know you saved Lieutenant Dan. Now come for me. Right. Well, my rating for this game is 5 hello strangers out of 5. Thank you for listening this week. As always, you could catch us on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play Store. We have a Patreon set up for our extended podcasts. Like we have a Twitter at toomanygames2. Go ahead and give us some feedback. Give us ratings. Yeah.
Be nice to us. Say sweet things. Actually, doesn't matter. You can say whatever.
Just say something, damn it.
Yeah, just say something, man.
All right. Well, have a good night, everybody.
Benito.
Benito. There you go.